All right, does anybody have any questions about the research paper going on right now? We came across yesterday? Nope, we're good? Okay. Today we're going to take notes on sensation and perception, or really sensation. Have an introductory to our chapter on sensation and perception, and tomorrow and Friday I'll introduce you to your senses project, break you up into groups, give you your objectives, and give you some time to work on that as well. Okay. Sensation with our bell work today. How do we define it? What we got? Ryan?
So, feeling or perception that results from something that you come in contact with something.
Okay, alright, it's a good start. Let's see what else we have to add that, Miss Dorns?
Feeling or a physical feeling or perception or something that happens to or comes in contact.
Okay, so those aren't my favorite definitions because it's got the word perception in it. What else we got, Adam?
Physical feeling resulting from something that happens to the body.
Okay, let's see what our old textbook has for sensation here. Because I usually want to emphasize something. The process through which the senses pick up visual, auditory, and other sensory stimuli and transmit them to the brain. Okay? I like that definition a little bit more. The process through which the senses pick up stimuli. We can simplify it that way. The process through which the senses pick up stimuli, sensory stimuli, okay, and then end up transmitting them to the brain. So, a lot of times we get sensation and perception mixed up. Right? Sometimes we use them interchangeably, and we really shouldn't. Sensation is just really the process in which we are being exposed to the stimulus and we're acquiring that information. Okay? So what is perception then, Seth? Okay, becoming aware. I like the word awareness there. Chance? Same thing. Anybody got anything different, Ms. Brooke?
The ability to see, hear, become aware of something.
Yeah, I don't like that one. That's too much sensation there. Sometimes they don't have psychology in the background whenever they're coming up with these definitions, so they have a little bit different approach. Is it Google? Is that where you're getting it from? Yeah. You got anything else, Logan?
The way that your senses are interpreted.
There you go. That's a little bit better. Okay. So the process by which sensory information is actively organized. So you used interpreted. Interpreted is pretty good, right? Actively organized. Seth, you said awareness of it. It's kind of close to sensation, but it's kind of bridging the gap a little bit closer towards perception there. It's like this cognitive process is perception. We're perceiving, we're analyzing it, we're judging it. That is perception. Let me read the definition one more time. The process by which sensory information is actively organized and interpreted by the brain. Okay? Actively organized and interpreted. Okay? So, one question we'll reiterate it a little bit later here in class. Do our eyes see? Does our nose smell? Do our ears hear? The way that what do you think, Cal? Do our eyes actually see? Our ears actually hear? Not necessarily. Okay? They are simply sensory receptors. Okay? Think of them as instruments, as tools by which we can eventually, hear. Where do we get all that what we think of as hearing and what we think of seeing? All that comes from the perception side of things, where it is organized inside of our brain and allows us to process that stuff. Sound good? So, at some point in time, the stimulus that we're exposed to and our sensory receptors receive that stimulus creates that electrical impulse, right? It's going through the neurons in our body. So what are our sensory neurons? Anybody remember those? Sensory neurons. We have 3 types of neurons. One of them is sensory neurons. Afferent neurons, right? So we're receiving it, right? And then it's going to go to our interneurons, and then go to our spinal cord, then up to our brain. Once it gets to our midbrain, there has to be another process that takes place to take it from a neuronal impulse and to turn it into that evaluation, analysis, cognitive perception. Sound good? And that's a process called transduction. You may want to add that to your board today. So we got sensation, perception, and transduction. Okay? So transduction is really the bridge between sensation and perception. It takes the electrical stimulus and it transitions it into a cognition. Something that we can evaluate. Questions about that? We'll go over it again here in just a moment. Just want to introduce those ideas to you right now. Okay? Alright, let's do our word of the day. Take a moment to do that, and then we'll get back to our thoughts on sensation and perception. Alright, cajole is our word of the day. Means to coax, antonym to dissuade. He hoped to cajole her into selling the house. A few years ago, my wife and I went through the process of trying to sell our house, and that was a bit of a challenge. It took us over a year to sell our house, and to eventually get into the house that we wanted. I know that sometimes it happens much quicker for other people, but for us it was a little bit of a predicament, a little bit of a strain there. We couldn't coax anybody or cajole anybody to buy our house. All right, other synonyms. Cajole, coax, yep. Persuade. Got one more? Convince. Very good, Ms. Bowman. So you got dissuade for antonym. What else? If you're not going to convince them, coax them, cajole them. Seth? Discourage them, yeah. Ms. Bowman? Deter. Yep. We got the D trifecta there. Very good. Like to see that. Deter. Dissuade. Discourage. Part of speech. What we got, Logan?
Verb.
It is verb. Good. All right. Since context, Mr. Zimmerman, our tech guy, actually shared this with me, or shared with the faculty the other day. We've been going through this training to try to prevent any type of phishing attack against like malware stuff on our system here at the high school or here in the district, right? So he sent out some this day in history stuff concerning malware. He said thought it was very fitting as well to know that you have done this on the 30th anniversary of the first ransomware attempt. The first known attack was initiated in 1989 by Joseph Popp, Dr. Joseph Popp, an AIDS researcher, who carried out the attack by distributing 20,000 floppy disks to AIDS researchers spanning more than 90 countries, claiming that the disk contained a program that analyzed an individual's risk of acquiring AIDS through the use of a questionnaire. However, the disk also contained a malware program that initially remained dormant in the computers, only activating after the computer was turned on 90 times. After the 90th start threshold was passed, the malware displayed a message demanding a payment of $189 and then another $378 for a software release. This ransomware attack became known as the AIDS Trojan or the PC Cyborg. So interesting to see how things things began. Do you guys know what a floppy disk is? Yes, you're aware of what a floppy disk is? Okay. There you go.
What was the doctor's name?
His name was Dr. Popp. P-O-P-P. Joseph Popp.
Wait, do we have to have a symbol?
You have to have a simile. Yep. Appreciate you reminding us. Like or as. were those other smaller box ones called? It wasn't a floppy disk. It was better than a floppy disk because it could hold more information. A disk, something.
All I remember is they were like yay big and they were black.
Okay, so that's
That's
not.
a floppy disk.
I'll show you what a floppy disk is.
Then maybe what I'm thinking is what you're thinking.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're both called floppy disk. Alright, these right here,
Oh
with the
yeah.
hole in the middle of them, those are this one over here, that's the original floppy disk. And they were like paper thin, and you slid them into the side of your computer, kind of like a CD. When I was in college, I was using these things here.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Can't believe we can still use it.
That one says it only holds like 1.5 megabytes.
Yeah, but that was huge. I mean, I could put like, 20 papers on there.
Yeah.
It's huge. All right, go ahead and share your sentence. Person in front, person behind you. Make sure that you're listening for your simile in there. I found out the hard way on those floppy disks. It wasn't working really well, and so I saw the picture on it, and something with a magnet on it. So I went to the refrigerator, grabbed the magnet off, started going all over with.
Clean it all up.
Yep, and then I looked at it again and realized, oh, I erased everything. All right, let's share one. Adam, what do you have?
Dr. Pop was as sneaky as a mouse when he cajoled other people from downloading his malware.
Sneaky as a mouse. I don't see how. I didn't anticipate a doctor being the first one to do this type of, illegal, deviant act.
Did he get caught, like arrested?
I imagine he did, if his name's out there. So, yeah. Yeah, just wouldn't anticipate it being somebody in that particular field. He's doing AIDS research. You think that somebody's doing that type of work would have a heart of, or a person of integrity, right? All right, sensation and perception. This is an old Belver question. It's kind of like a preview, not so much psychology, but a little bit of sociology here. I always ask the question, we get to sensation and perception. How much do you think you could accomplish in life if you could neither see nor hear? Some of us, Ms. Bowman, your reaction there, facial expression is almost encouraging. You said that it's almost like you're communicating that it'd be all right.
It would be hard, but the other senses, work harder.
Okay, all right, they're amplified. You're able to accentuate and use those a little bit more. Yeah, that's good.
And Helen Keller did.
Oh, Helen Keller did it. All right, there we go. That's all I wanted. If Helen Keller could do it, then then anybody can do it, right? So I think there's a lot of false things about Helen Keller that are communicated to us that we don't realize. Okay, so first off, I think that we think it's easier than what it actually is. There's going to be a lot of challenges. The second thing is we use Helen Keller. Again, this is probably a little bit more sociology than anything else here in psychology. We use her as an example for young elementary school students to do what? Why is she so popular in elementary schools? We use her story to tell elementary students what? We heroify her in the American culture. We make her, it seem like she's an American icon, right? But there's really, some controversial information against that. But the reason why she's using the elementary school is if Helen Keller can do it and she was deprived of sight and the ability to hear, right? She, was able to get there and do it. She worked hard. Then for you that have the ability to see and the ability to hear, if you can't get there, it's almost inexcusable, right? All you have to do is work hard, right? That's the idea that teachers usually use, or at least the American educational system has a tendency to do with Helen Keller, right? You gotta work hard, right? The reality is, and then we use that idea as gonna reflect American ideals, hard work leads to success, self-made men, going from nothing to something, right? But the reality is Helen Keller was actually against those ideas. She was actually a socialist and a communist. You may have ever heard that before? That she was a communist sympathizer and a socialist that way, okay? And then think about, if you really step back and why would, why would Helen Keller be a socialist or a communist sympathizer? Yeah.
Because everything was shared, then she wouldn't, like she's already at like a disadvantage, and then she wouldn't really have to work that hard to get what she needed.
Okay, alright. That's not a bad idea. Not exactly what I'm looking for, but I understand what you're saying, Could have saved a lot of heartache and effort, right? Struggle. Any other ideas? Who are the people that usually end up with these handicaps, being blind, being deaf? What is it, Ms. Mullen? Yeah, it's a lower social class, right? Why is it lower social classes, Ms. Mullen? Exactly. They don't have access to healthcare like the other social classes do. The work environments, especially at the time period when she is living, are much more dangerous, right, than work environments of those of higher social class. If you get down to the very bottom of the social class ladder, prostitution is fairly prevalent in that type of environment. Sexually transmitted diseases. One of the big consequences of sexually transmitted diseases is blindness and loss of hearing, blindness. Right? So her idea was, well, if we have more social programs creating a classless type of society, then what happens? We don't have this bottom level anymore. Then we don't have so many people that have to go through what I've gone through, and what she has gone through, right? To be deprived of not being able to see, not being able to hear, okay? So, I'm not advocating socialism or communism or anything like that, but I want to, communicate to you that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of stuff out there, that we don't really get exposed to because it's kind of been vast, because we use her in a way to say, hey, all you have to do is work hard, and you get there. So it's kind of what sociology is a little bit about, right? Trying to get a better understanding of how social forces affect our behavior there. All right, our objectives today: identify differences between absolute threshold, difference threshold, and then how does transduction enable the brain to receive sensory information? Kind of already talked about that a little bit. So what is the difference between sensation and perception? Again, sensation is just really the acquisition of the stimulus. We've been exposed to it, we're receiving it, right? Perception is the active organization of those stimulus so that you can interpret it, right? You're walking down the hall, you see somebody coming towards you, you've been exposed to it, and then, man, that guy is really tall, right? That's the perception side of things. Sound good? You guys ever been faked or get the best of by the fake fruit before? You didn't actually put it in your mouth, but you see it on the table, and it looks like it's real, and then you go up and you touch it, and then you realize that it's wax fruit. Does that happen to anybody? No? Miss Orange, yes? Okay. We got a few. Alright. It doesn't have to be wax fruit. It could be anything, that you thought was real, and then you go up, no, it's not real. It's fake. Okay? That's where our perception, got the best of us, right? We were mistaken. So that would be the perception side of things, okay? Who has better senses, man or animal? Adam.
Is it true question?
I don't know.
I don't know, like animals, like some animals have like much better sense of hearing, or like maybe not so good sense of sight.
Okay. So sometimes they have really heightened senses in one particular area or another, right? So what if we just phrased it overall then? Animal or man?
Animals?
It's probably animal, okay? Now animal, why do they have heightened senses compared to man? They use those heightened senses for, yeah, for survival. Yeah, for survival purposes, okay? What is it that we have that differentiates us from animal? Yeah, with our brain, right? Our cognitive abilities with the prefrontal cortex and our critical thinking skills and our creativity, right? So since we rely upon that so much, we don't have to rely upon our senses as much as an animal would. Sound good? Now, does that mean that we don't have to pay attention at all to our senses? No. We have to utilize them to a certain degree, okay? So we're going to do a little bit of brainstorming here. I want you to partner up with the person in front and person behind you and answer these 3 questions. What is the softest sound you can hear? What is the dimmest light you can see? And what is the most diluted substance you can taste? I'll give you a few moments to come up with these, okay? All right, what did we come up with? We'll start with the softest sound that you can hear. Ms. Swanson? You can hear this? The skin rubbing against of your thumb and your first finger, right? How far away does it have to be from your ear? It has to be within a foot? Okay, within a foot. Right? You get beyond a foot, you can't hear it. Right? But within a foot, you can. Okay. Other ideas. Ms. Brooke? A feather hitting the floor. You can hear a feather hitting the floor? Alright. What we got, Ryan?
Blood flowing through your veins.
You can hear the blood flowing through your veins?
If you're in a silent room,
You can hear the blood
Oh,
flowing
wait,
through your
are you
veins?
talking about that one room in that one
yes.
college?
Particularly that room, yes. However,
Yeah.
if you're in a dead silent room, you can hear it.
You can hear.
Or is it just that one room in that one college?
Is it specifically made so that you can do that?
Yeah, it's like the quietest room in the world. Like, it's got like these weird walls that like
And you can like
It-
hear
it absorbs all the sound. And
But you
people
can
go
hear your
crazy.
blood moving through your
Yeah,
veins.
people go crazy after like half an hour in there or something.
Interesting. Like that sensory deprivation or research, right? Alright, that's pretty good. What about the dimmest light that you can see? What did you guys come up with, Ms. Housewater? You didn't get past the first one? Got stuck on the first one?
He said stars are pretty dim.
Stars are pretty dim sometimes. Be the ones that are really, really far out there. But I think it has to be a certain context included there as well, because you live in the city, you can't see them. There's too much light pollution. So you got to take that in consideration. Says, what do you guys come up with?
You said like you kind of said that if you're in a dark room,
Okay, and that's the dimmest light you can see?
We didn't know.
Okay, alright, it's a challenging one. You guys come up with anything? No? No? You guys, Marissa?
We said, like, the light you can see through your eyelids
When they're closed. Okay. Because they're so thin, right? If somebody's, it's kind of very dependent upon the intensity of the light on the other side though, right? You know, somebody's got a flashlight going right up in front of your, even though your eyes are closed. I can understand that. Most diluted substance you can taste? Any ideas here? James? No?
Double bubble after 10 minutes.
Because it's tasteless, essentially. And there's only a small little bit of taste left. I like that idea. That's pretty good. All right, I'm going to give you the examples. These come from an old textbook. For vision, a candle flame 30 miles away on a clear night. Candle flame 30 miles away on a clear night. Okay? So that's like the equivalent of being on top of the school, and they've got a candle flame on top of one of the buildings in Peoria, and everything else is blacked out, but we can see it. Sound good?
How do they know that? Like, how did they test that out?
How do they know
A lot of
it's the
research.
dimmest light?
but
Like,
Hearing. We'll go back to statistics here in a second. For hearing, it's a watch ticking 20 feet away. 20 feet away. You get past 20 feet, it's gone. Okay? For taste, you get 1 teaspoon of sugar that is dissolved in 2 gallons of water. 1 teaspoon of water, 2 gallons, teaspoon of sugar, and 2 gallons of water. You can taste it. Sound good? Most subtle taste that you can taste. Smell, we didn't get that one. But for smell, it's a single drop of perfume in a 3-room house. Not a 4-room house, but a 3-room house. Single drop of perfume. And then for touch, it's a bee's wing falling a distance of 1 centimeter onto one's cheek. Not 2 centimeters, but 1 centimeter. Right? Okay, so some of these are a little bit random, a little bit extreme, okay? But the idea that we're trying to get across here is this concept of absolute threshold, okay? Absolute threshold is the minimum amount of sensory information that can be detected 50% of the time. So 50% of the time I can see it, 50% of the time I can't. 50% of the time I can feel it, 50% of the time I can't. Okay, so that's why the candle flame, 30 miles away, clear night, right? I can see it 50% of the time, right? Half the time I can see it. If it goes beyond that, 30 miles, then it drops, my accuracy drops below 50%, and then my absolute threshold has not been passed, okay? So, for us, if we recognize that we, in the midst and presence of a stimulus, then our absolute threshold has been passed. Sound good? For example, like you hear Miss Birchie in the other room, right? Our absolute threshold has been passed for hearing, okay? Yes.
So, but this is for yourself, this.
Yeah, it's kind of very dependent on individual to individual because our abilities and our senses are going to vary from individual to individual, right? Even yourself, over the course of your lifetime, it's going to change because your ability to hear is going to deteriorate over the course of your life, because of your exposure to loud sounds over the course of your life, right? So it's just a statistic. So what's your strongest sense? Do some people have stronger senses? Like one sense is accentuated more so than others? They do, okay? So I'm going to give you one example. This is the one I'm familiar with. But they have specific names for people that have a heightened sense of taste over the other senses. They call them super tasters, right? And so that may be a test question. You may want to write that out the side. What do they call people with heightened sense of taste? Super tasters. Superman? No, super tasters. They usually show up on the Food Channel, right? They're those food connoisseurs that are judging the creations that all those cooks and chefs and stuff put those things together, right? Have a heightened sense of taste. I always thought my wife has a heightened sense of taste, being a super taster, because she never puts salt on anything. Doesn't cook really with much salt at all, as well. And so when the plate ends up on the table in front of me, here comes the salt, right? And she's like, "What? What are you doing? You can't taste it?" "No, I can't taste it." Eat some salt. All right. So a similar concept to absolute threshold is difference threshold. So you've already been exposed to the stimulus. Now the question is, how much must it increase or decrease in order for us to notice a difference in that stimulus? So you call that difference threshold. So a quick example, Chance opens up the window, right? Does that, we have a change in temperature. How much will the temperature need to increase? How much will the temperature need to decrease in order for us to notice the difference? Sound good? So if we start to feel that there is a difference in temperature, then our difference threshold has been passed. Everybody good there? Okay. And the minimum amount of change, right, needed for the difference threshold to be passed is called just noticeable difference. I think I have that. Nope, I don't. You need to write that down. Just noticeable difference. JND. The minimum amount of change needs to take place for the difference threshold to take place is just noticeable difference. Okay? So, this guy, right? I think about old radios. I'm not sure if your radio in your car, mine used to be like this when I was growing up, but when you turn the volume knob, it would click every time that you turned it, right? And because of the clicks, you could know, you get a feeling that there was a change in volume. Sometimes when you get that smooth turning one, you can turn it and your ability to hear it, you can't tell really whether it's changing or not. So your difference threshold really hasn't been passed. Sound good? You guys see those different lights? They have 3 different brightness. They got a dim light, and they got a medium, and then they got a bright, right? They click, that click. Right, your difference threshold is easily passed there. Some of them that are smooth, right, you turn them a little bit and you don't necessarily, it's changing, but your difference threshold hasn't been passed. Sound good? All right, Weber's law is associated with just noticeable difference and difference threshold. It says the greater the original stimulus, the more it must be increased or decreased for the difference to be noticed. All right, so it's really based upon percentages. Okay, the greater it must be increased or decreased in order for you to notice a difference. So the example that I have here up on the board is this weightlifter, right? See the guy on the left? I mean, he's lifting a lot of weight, right? And because he's lifting so much, let's say that he's doing, better than what he's doing there, but he's doing it 10 times, right? What if you, decided you want to play a trick on him and you took a 2.5 pound weight and put it on the side of like his right side, right? Just to play a trick on him. Do you think he would notice that? How much weight does he have on there already? He's got a ton, right? Because that small change that you put in there is so small, it doesn't pass that difference threshold because it's such a small percentage of the larger amount of weight. Now this guy over here on the right, right? He's not doing anything, right? If you added, just a pound or 2 pounds to him, right? It makes up a larger percentage of the overall weight, and so then you'd be able to notice the difference there, okay? All right. What happens if you lose one of your senses? I think we talked about this. Somebody mentioned it. That's Miss Bowen, right? Helen Keller. Your other senses will improve there, right? Which is accurate. happens physiologically in the brain. So your occipital lobe, right? Primary visual cortex, associated with sight. What happens when you become blind? Does that part of the brain just deteriorate, wither away? Any ideas there? Logan?
It'll rewire it to do something else.
It does. What's that process in which the brain adapts itself to the changing environment that you're around? Remember what that's called? Plasticity. Okay? So, your brain will adapt to that change. Okay? So, it will, if you've had sight up until that particular point in your life before you lose it, you're still going to be visualizing, using the other senses to create visual imagery in your mind there. Okay? Little bit of a different scenario if you're born without sight there. Okay? I've heard of situations where, I've seen video clips. This young guy, he's blind, can't see, but he uses clicks like sonar, and he can detect objects in his vicinity based off of the way the sound bounces back to him. That way, pretty cool stuff. So our eyes do not actually see, and our ears do not actually hear. Is that true or false? It is true, like we said earlier. They don't actually see. It's just the means by which we can acquire the stimulus and get it inside of us so that we can process it. Our brain is the one that is actually doing all the seeing. Okay? So we mentioned transduction before. Sensory stimuli are then transformed to signals that are sent to certain parts of the brain. The thalamus is a key part here. The part of your midbrain, the big egg-shaped part of your brain in your midbrain. I think 4 of the 5 of your senses all go through the thalamus. I think the one sense that may go straight to the olfactory system and olfactory lobes would be your sense of smell. But everything else goes through the thalamus, and so the thalamus is a big part, plays a big role in this transduction process here, going from sensation to perceptions. Last thing, sensory adaptation. So, how many of you guys have, anybody started the fireplace in the house? Anybody got a fireplace? Right? Is it a wood-burning fireplace? No, it's gas. The best here in this scenario is a wood-burning. You got a wood-burning fireplace? Yeah? So, the first day when you have a wood-burning fireplace, you walk into the house, you notice it? Do you notice it? The smell?
Yeah.
Yes, right? However, if that wood burning, do you do it consistently? Or you just do it every once in a while? Every once in a while. So, if you kept on burning wood in that fireplace every day for the next 3 weeks, you walk into the house, again after you get home from school, after 3 weeks, are you going to notice it? No, you're less likely to notice it, okay? So, that's what they call sensory adaptation, okay? All of us, we have natural smells, right? But because we're around our home, right, ourselves so much, we don't notice it so much, right? We become almost immune to it. You ever gone over to a friend's house and you walked in the door and you're, interesting smell, right? Unique. And is your friend aware of it? No, they're not aware of it because they're in it all the time. They've had sensory adaptation associated with it. Okay? So it applies to, sensory adaptation applies to more than just smells. It can apply to hearing, right? There's sounds in the background. You get exposed to it over and over again. You become immune to it. You don't really even pay attention to it. Our clothes, sense of touch, right? You put them on in the morning. If you pull it right out of the dryer, get that nice warm feel from it. But an hour into the day, do you really, are you consciously aware that your clothes are hitting your skin? You think about it. No, you don't. I think there's a sensory adaptation there. Sound good? So, another concept to keep in the back of your mind. So we got Weber's Law, absolute threshold, difference threshold, just noticeable difference, sensory adaptation, a lot of good stuff from today. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? No? Alright, you got just a moment here. Hang on. Oh, with sensory adaptation, sometimes if the stimulus is so strong, sometimes it doesn't take place. It won't work. You guys ever been exposed to ammonia before? A chemical substance like cleaning material. When I was growing up on the farm, my dad would use it every once in a while to clean out some of the things that we got going on in the farm. And it had a very sharp smell to it. And so strong, you're not gonna have sensory adaptation because it's kind of like a skunk smell, right? So strong you just can't get